Thank you, Sophie, and welcome to the programme. Coming up, the Met Police are to close 10 more front counters, leaving only 2 open 24/7 across London. Some say it could leave those who need face-to-face contact at risk.
Particularly more vulnerable categories such as the elderly, people who don't have English as a first language, people who don't have the necessary IT skills to be reporting online.
Well, the Met Police say it has to make tough choices and save money. We'll have the latest from Scotland Yard. Also in the programme, less clinical, more comfortable. The bereavement suite helping families through early pregnancy loss. And transformed into a temple of sumo, the Royal Albert Hall hosts the Grand Sumo Tournament for the first time over 3 decades. Good evening and welcome to the programme. First tonight, London is losing more police stations with front counters. 10 are set to shut, leaving just 2 open 24 hours a day. That breaks a promise made by the Met Police and the Mayor of London, who said every borough would have 1 station with round-the-clock access. The Met says it will save £7 million, but staff and victim support groups have said there are major concerns. Our Home Affairs correspondent Sonia Jessup reports.
Police front counters, a place where Londoners can speak face-to-face with the Met. The Force and the Mayor promised every borough would have one, open 24/7, but 10 of them are to close. Others, including Kentish Town, will have their hours cut in a bid to save money.
The Met says only around 5% of crimes in London these days are reported at front counters, but critics say there's a whole host of other reasons why people might want to come somewhere like this and why they might feel they need that face-to-face interaction.
I've had to come in and report a minor traffic accident, which happened to me. Can't do it on the internet, so I've had to come to a police station and do it.
Lib Dem Assembly member Gareth Roberts says Londoners, like Mary, have been telling him how upset they are about these plans.
It's going to have real-world consequences for hundreds, if not thousands, of Londoners, particularly more vulnerable categories such as the elderly, people who don't have English as a first language, people who don't have the necessary IT skills to be reporting online.
One member of police staff who asked us to protect his identity as he's worried about his job told us that front counters are busy with people wanting face-to-face contact.
It could be an update on crime reported previously. It could be they've lost their wallet, their phone. It could be somewhere safe to be if they think someone's following them.
14% of rapes are reported at front counters, and there are concerns that domestic abuse survivors could be put at risk if they have no alternative way to contact police.
A lot of survivors report that their phones are monitored, that their conversations are being recorded or listened into by their abuser. So it's impossible for them to be able to reach out for support.
If you're removing a vital service to the people of London and you're saying, trust us, it's like, well, how can we trust you when you're removing something that we all need?
London's lost around 130 front counters since 2010. The previous Mayor Boris Johnson started shutting them to save money, a programme that continued under the current Mayor. The Met said it needs to save around £260 million and cut around 1,700 officers and staff.
I've resisted closing down front counters unless we've really had to do so. We're investing record amounts of money in neighbourhood policing, and the Met Police Service have agreed to undertake an equality impact assessment and to engage with community and stakeholders in relation to the plans they have.
The real scandal is that this has been known about within the Met and by the Mayor and Deputy Mayor since last year, about November of last year they knew about it, but most people didn't find out until July.
He's concerned that even with the Met's reassurances of boosting neighbourhood officers, a key part of its relationship with the community could be lost.
Well, Sonia joins us now. You've been to New Scotland Yard. What is the Met saying?
Well, the Met's insisting that it has listened to Londoners, that it's keeping open counters which would have closed under those original plans that were announced over the summer. And the Mayor has welcomed that today. But it does mean that 10 will close and only 2 will remain open 24/7. And I put to Assistant Commissioner Matt Twist that Londoners were promised at least one round-the-clock counter in every borough. So that's a broken promise.
The Met's got a £260 million budget gap, and we're having to make some really tough choices to fill that. We announced earlier in the year that we were closing a number of front counters, and this was in our budget submission pre-Christmas, and we then announced a consultation based on the initial design. What we're announcing today is that we're keeping open 27 front counters, which is 8 more than we had originally thought we were able to. We listened to what Londoners said, and actually what they told us was they wanted us to prioritise the number of sites over the opening hours. And by actually keeping 2 of our busiest sites open 24 hours a day and having 25 sites open during the busiest times, we've been able to increase the number of front counters we've kept open from 19 to 27.
Why not tell people about this? Why not make it public earlier so people can tell the Met how it would impact them?
So I think we've been really open about this. I think we've been clear about the scale of the budgetary challenge that we're having to face. And the reality is, in order to prioritise frontline policing, to prioritise those core roles, neighbourhood roles, officers working in public protection, we're having to shrink other parts. And the reality also is that front counters were just not used very much. In some of the sites, there were less than two crimes a day being reported.
He told me that an equality impact assessment will be published in November, but these closures are due to begin before Christmas. I also asked about the 2 stations that will stay open 24/7 because they are Lewisham and Charing Cross. Now, Charing Cross, of course, the focus of that BBC Panorama investigation, which found evidence of racism, misogyny and officers revelling in the use of force. Now, Assistant Commissioner Twist told me those counters were chosen as the busiest sites in London. He insisted Londoners can feel confident going to Charing Cross. There's lots of work, he said, going on to root out rogue officers. I also asked about job cuts because that staff member that we heard from in my report says there's a lot of anxiety about that. Assistant Commissioner Twist told me today that there will not be job cuts over these plans, but of course there will be changes to shifts.
Interesting story. Sonia Jessup, thank you very much. You're watching BBC London, still to come before 7.
It's coming back after more than 30 years. Sumo wrestling is here at the Royal Albert Hall and we'll be meeting some of those fighting to become London's champion.
The trauma of early pregnancy loss is something many of us have been through. It's thought 1 in 5 pregnancies ends in miscarriage. Now, St Thomas's Hospital has opened a new bereavement suite to support families going through heartbreak in those early weeks. It's based on the gynecology ward, not the maternity wing, and staff say it's making a difference. Carl Mercer has more.
It's a room with a view and a very special purpose. This is the first part of the new bereavement suite at St Thomas's Hospital for those who suffer early pregnancy loss. Designed to be less clinical, more comforting for people who lose a child due to things like miscarriage or ectopic pregnancies. Here alone, that is 1 woman a day.
You've done such amazing things, and I hear all about your play as well.
The driving force behind it is nurse Leanna, backed by patient Serafina, who herself had a miscarriage.
I think you go off into a very lonely and dark place because you don't have all the information and you don't know how to cope. And so you're just like surviving, really, surviving through it and maybe even suffering through it.
It can be a really, really awful experience and it stays with you. And every year that same date comes round. So I want to be able to do something to try and make that journey a little bit better.
The day you actually lose your baby, you never get over it. It's part of your life and the tapestry that will be your relationship. So it's a very important day.
The room has a bed for partners too.
Partners can be forgotten, so having this room here and having somewhere for the partner to stay and it makes them feel involved, it makes them feel acknowledged, and it acknowledges their loss too.
Yes, and also we're told for the first 3 months to not talk about it, you know, so your family doesn't know. So all of a sudden, instead of breaking the news to your best friends or close friends that I'm pregnant, you're breaking the news that, guess what, I was pregnant and now I'm having a miscarriage, which again, you don't want to talk about. So you just don't end up talking about anything. It's just the two of you going through it.
When you were speaking earlier, you said you cried when you got the funding.
Yeah. Yes, I did. It was... it's a moment of pure happiness and relief that I feel that all of us fight for early pregnancy to be acknowledged. And it kind of felt like people are understanding now. People get the importance, and it was just a relief. I'd been trying for 2 years to get funding, so I felt heard as well. And I felt I was advocating for these patients to get this. And I'm really proud that we can provide this for our women, birthing people and partners.
And if you or a loved one has been affected by early pregnancy loss, there is support and advice available in confidence. The BBC has put together a list of organisations who can help. Just search BBC Action Line. The Metropolitan Police Commissioner has described as legal madness the decade-long legal action against a Met officer who fatally shot a man during a foiled prisoner break. Jermaine Baker was shot dead in December 2015. He was part of a plot to help an inmate escape from a prison van near Wood Green Crown Court. The Metropolitan Police misconduct hearing was thrown out today. The chair of the panel said it had found there was no case for the police officer known as W80 to answer.
Too often, I see the trauma of good officers who are prepared to confront dangerous criminals, but are then left destroyed by a broken, bureaucratic and slow system of police accountability. We must overhaul how policing decisions, which are taken in split seconds, are later reviewed with the benefit of hindsight on freeze frame. Indeed, the current system allows criminals and their legal teams to weaponise those decisions against officers, undermining their confidence to pursue criminals or to use force.
Well, following the case, Jermaine Baker's family issued a statement saying the outcome was no surprise whatsoever. To them, they believe there was no justification for his death. Now a brief look at some other stories for you. A murder investigation is underway after a man in his 20s was fatally stabbed in southeast London. Police were called to Rushy Green in Catford overnight. They're appealing for witnesses. Some workers at the British Library are due to strike in a dispute over pay. The Public and Commercial Services Union says members faced a second consecutive year of a below-inflation pay rise. A British Library spokesperson says it's reaffirmed its commitment to being a living wage foundation employer. Now, it's something that affects around 1.5 million Londoners. Migraines don't just affect the head, but can cause sight loss and debilitating pain. Now, a leading charity says the condition is still not being taken seriously enough, especially at work. One man told us he had to quit his job because of the daily pain. New research reveals a worrying lack of awareness and poor workplace support. Lakshmi Gopal reports.
Sean O'Hara lives in constant pain.
I describe it as a rope sort of across the front of my head, and it's constantly being pulled and tightened, and then there's like a constant aching, sort of thumping pain. And then in and out every day I'll get different like intense migraine symptoms, so thumping, or it goes above one eye, or it goes down my neck.
And how long have you had this?
Every day for 10 years.
It's thought migraines affect around 1 in 7 people. Everyone has different triggers and different symptoms. Treatments have varying degrees of effectiveness, but there's still no cure.
For many, the pain is debilitating and unpredictable.
You can wake up and it can be a 6 out of 10 and you'd be quite grateful for that. And then by 10 o'clock at your shift, it's 100 out of 10. And what are you supposed to do? Walk out halfway through your shift?
The condition forced Sean out of his job at a gym.
They can sympathise if you be really good, which they were, but it always comes to that point, you now need to do your job, and if you can't do your job, we understand your condition, but we need someone who can do it, so you will have to go.
New research from the Migraine Trust found that 91% of sufferers had worked while having migraine symptoms, with many using annual leave to avoid taking sick days. 58% avoided disclosing at work that they had the condition. And worryingly, 60% of people said they'd feel concerned about hiring someone who gets migraines.
People who live with migraine have told us that they are discriminated against, that they often have to go from full-time to part-time or actually give up their job altogether because of the way they're treated at work, the way they're not taken seriously, the lack of promotional opportunities at the same time.
Isn't there employment law to protect against that, though?
People can be protected by law in terms of the Disability Act. It's very much down to each individual case. Employers need to look at making what are quite simple, reasonable adjustments. They're not rocket science. So we're talking about flexible working, if you work at a desk away from light, look at your lighting, maybe provide a quiet room.
Sean is now a self-employed personal trainer, which works better around his migraines. He's also training to run the London Marathon to support awareness of a condition that's so common, yet so poorly understood. Lakshmi Gopal, BBC London.
Right, let's get more on this because Dr. Mark Weatherall is with us, who is a consultant neurologist and the founder of the London Headache Centre. Mark, thank you for being with us. Tell us, are migraines more common? What are you seeing in your clinic?
So, I mean, migraines are incredibly common. 30% of women, 20% of men will get them at some point during their lives. And they've always been there, but I think we've become much more aware of how common they are, and they are being diagnosed more now, I think, than they ever have been in the past.
So tell us, what are the triggers for migraines?
So many people will find that disturbances of normal routine will bring migraines on. I always like to say migraine likes people to be a bit boring. It likes people to eat regularly and sleep regularly. And it's often changes in routine that will really set attacks off.
And do certain foods set migraines off?
Yes, so some people will be sensitive. I mean, traditionally people think about alcohol, MSG, cheese, chocolate, but it's often missing meals that will bring an attack on rather than what people specifically eat.
And for some of us migraine sufferers, you can feel sometimes the migraine coming on. Sometimes it goes away, but sometimes it comes on full-fledged. Is there a way to ward off migraines?
So it's really important that if people know that they're going to get a migraine, you want to treat them early. You have your best chance of actually taking painkillers, whether they're over-the-counter or more prescribed migraine-specific painkillers. The best chance of treating it well is getting in there early. So if you learn to recognise those warning signs, and a lot of people do get them, then if you get in there nice and early, then you might be able to knock it on its head before it really takes hold.
And what about for parents or carers or people who are working in quite busy, loud jobs who can't avoid maybe the triggers of migraines? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, so it can be really difficult. I mean, you know, we talk with people about trigger management, but sometimes it's very difficult to actually do anything about it. People don't necessarily have control over it. It's really important for people to kind of talk to their employers about their environment, and often reasonable adjustments can be made to try and reduce ambient noise or reduce levels of light that can trigger migraines in people, or make adjustments to the way that people work, to give them breaks, to allow them to not necessarily spend a whole day in front of a computer or a laptop. And those small adjustments can actually make a really big difference.
Just in a few words, is there hope for us migraine sufferers out there?
Absolutely, there's hope. We've got new treatments that have come in the last few years based on the last 30 years of migraine science, and they're incredibly effective. So get a diagnosis, see your GP, and there are options out there for everybody.
Dr. Mark Weatherall, thank you very much. Now, they've been turning heads around London. Sumo wrestlers have been spotted sightseeing ahead of a big night at the Royal Albert Hall. For the first time since 1991, the Grand Sumo Tournament is back in the capital. More than 40 of Japan's top wrestlers are competing, and Frankie McCamley is there before it all kicks off. Over to you, Frankie.
Well, yes, there is a real sense of excitement here at the Royal Albert Hall. We've seen lots of people walking around in traditional, beautiful Japanese dress. That's the kimono, of course. Now, in the last few moments, we saw the official opening of the tournament. That is the drummers. They have been playing outside for about 15 minutes. We can probably just hear a little bit of that. And then in the last hour or so, we have seen the official blessing of the doyo. Now, that's the ring that the wrestlers will fight in. That's been taking place, and it's just one of the many ancient rituals that will happen here. But ahead of that, as some of you may have seen, some of the sumo wrestlers have had a few days off to enjoy some of the sights of the capital, which we've been finding out. Arriving into Heathrow earlier this week, some stepping foot onto UK soil for the first time. Training almost every day of the year means sumo wrestlers don't often have time to travel. So, while the Grand Sumo stage was being set up, the stars of the tournament made the most of their free time in the capital, out enjoying the sights. A small London bus, in comparison, and a ride in a black cab, followed by a quick phone call before feeding the squirrels. Back at the Royal Albert Hall, speaking through a translator, Hoshoryu and Onosato are both a yokozuna, which is the highest rank in sumo wrestling. Can you just explain how much training and dedication goes into sumo wrestling?
So I was actually a skinny person before, so eating was actually part of my training. I had to really push myself and eat until I felt really sick, and then eat some more on top of that. Sumo wrestlers' diet consists of 2 meals per day, because the morning we use it for practice, so it's lunch and dinner. So we have to cram as much calories as we can in those 2 meals.
What do you think of the venue?
I saw the ring and my heart is pounding. I hope the audiences will enjoy the sumo. So I came here today and I'm very moved by what they built here, so I'm very looking forward to it.
Outside the ring, with more than 40 wrestlers taking part, organisers have been busy.
We've had reinforced toilets, we have reinforced seats. I think we're getting through 70 kilograms of rice every day. The wholesaler of noodles has run out.
Sumo wrestling is one of the oldest sports, rooted in religion and tradition. The rules are easy. Get your opponent to touch the floor with anything but their feet, or push them out of the ring. Well, in true Royal Albert Hall style, the team only have a few days to set up for the Grand Sumo Tournament. The ring is ready. What the team are doing now is preparing the VIP seats. So people will be paying top dollar to sit on those red cushions right next to the ring. Pretty brave, if you ask me.
In the doyo, it's Terao the Typhoon.
It's been 34 years since the Grand Sumo Tournament was at this venue, which for some feels like the perfect place.
We are almost purpose-built, you could say. And in fact, one of the original designers of sumo venues in Tokyo based one of their venues on the design of the Royal Albert Hall. And the audience is right on top of the action. There's not a bad seat to be had here. All the views are excellent. And the audience response is going to be extraordinary. It's almost going to take the roof off.
For the next 5 days, that is, as the capital feels the force of Japan's biggest showdown inside a ring where there is no mercy, just a lifetime of training and the will to stay inside. Well, lots of people have been waiting anxiously for hours here just in the hope of seeing their heroes. This gentleman, you'll be able to see, managed to pick up a sumo wrestler. Others have been telling us they spent a long time getting here.
I'm so curious to see how they perform here in London after a long trip, and I mean, it's first time in 34 years. It's just such a pleasure to get to see it.
Seeing the different types of technique and the different types of sumo coming together is going to be really exciting.
Danish Key is my favourite, so looking forward to seeing him.
It's one thing to watch sumo in Japan, in Tokyo, but it feels very surreal for it to be happening in like your own country.
Well, don't worry if you can't make it here. All of the championship is going to be streamed live on iPlayer, so just make sure you head to the BBC Sports website. Back to you.
Looks absolutely fantastic. Right, let's take a look at the weather, and Kate is with us in the studio. Kate?
Thank you, Elfa. Good evening. Well, yet again, we've had another rather gloomy day across London. We still have the high pressure in charge, but trapped underneath it is a lot of moisture and therefore a lot of clouds. So it's just been like this, and underneath it, it's actually felt quite chilly, not only for today, but for the last few days. Now, for the next few days, guess what? No prizes. We've got more cloud. It's going to stay with us for Thursday, much of Friday, 1 or 2 brighter spells mixed in. Now, the high pressure around the outside, you can see on this northeasterly flow, it's feeding in, originates from the North Sea and makes its way inland and towards us. And that's what's happening overnight. 1 or 2 isolated breaks in the cloud potentially could lead to maybe some mistiness by dawn. Minimum temperature around 8 Celsius. Could still get 1 or 2 spots of rain in the thicker cloud, both overnight and through the course of Thursday. Now, tomorrow, we might see a little bit more in the way of brightness. The cloud breaking up through the middle of the morning, really, especially further south. But again, you can see still some rain. Temperatures around 16 Celsius. Now, as we head into Friday, the high pressure's still with us. Edging towards us, though, is a cold front, but this high is still managing to block it for the end of this week. So it's looking likely to stay dry through the course of Thursday night and into Friday as well. So yes, we've still got the cloud around, a few bright spells mixed in, a few spots of rain. But as we head into the weekend, we'll start to see the wind start to strengthen. Saturday at the moment is looking dry, as well as you can see here. Friday, it's not until Sunday where that cold front you saw in that pressure picture starts to edge a little closer. It is going to get windier, but the rain isn't going to arrive until we get into Sunday. So it's turning wet and windy. Alpa.
Kate, thank you very much. Right, that's about it from me and the team. I'll be here later with our 10:30 programme. But for now, from all of us here, do have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye for now.